Hi, Stuart Bruce here, and I am the Spare Time Property Investor. In these podcasts, I'm going to share tips, tricks, and lessons that I've learned and will hopefully help you, especially if you're still working the 9 to 5. Hello, and welcome to episode 2 of the Spare Time Property Investor podcast. So I thought I would start off by sharing the tools I use to keep on top of things while I'm at work or I'm out and about. These are tools that I have on my mobile phone, so it creates a mobile office that I can access from anywhere, and all the tools are free. So first, there's a lot of paperwork when you're dealing with property, especially when you're purchasing or remortgaging. So I use a scanning app on my phone that came free with my printer and then save everything to Google Drive. These documents can then be shared with whoever needs to see them, and it's much quicker than getting a request and finding the documents when you get home, scanning them on and emailing them, blah blah blah. It's so slow. All of that slows everything down, which is no good for anyone. It takes some discipline to get going and a little bit of thought, but honestly, it really helps. And you can kind of take the high ground when other people are dragging their feet, which is sometimes quite nice. If you do this one thing, I promise it will save you so much time. It will reduce your stress when you're trying to find all your documents and everything like that. It's really good. But what I would say, if you're not in a period where you need all of your paperwork to remortgage or something like that, and you're not going to need it in the next 6 months, for instance, don't worry about it. You can catch up quite quickly once you've got the systems in place, and as long as you keep your letters and everything like that you might need, you can quite quickly scan a few documents on and then just keep on top of it. But when you're in that process of maybe remortgaging and you're having to go back and forth to solicitors, the finance company, and all that sort of business, it's so helpful to have all the documents in one place. Share it with the solicitor, share it with the broker, whatever. It just makes everything so much slicker. Then there's Google Docs and Google Sheets, and this keeps everything web-based, so I can access them whenever I need to, and they are just the same as Word and Excel, which are kind of integral to running any sort of business. Then I have one place, which is Google Drive, which has all of the scanned documents, all of the written documents, the spreadsheets, everything like that, which enables me to then very quickly share the documents with the people who need to see them. And this is why I don't use things like Evernote really, because I like it, I've used it before, but I love the simplicity of everything being in one place, which allows me to share documents really quickly. It allows me to only need to go to a very few places, which helps with my time management. For instance, we have a new joint venture, so I have a folder on Google Drive with some Google documents, try saying that, and Google Sheets that people can change and input and amend and everything like that. And we also have scanned documents, so everybody can see what's in there. For example, we recently had to get a mortgage, so we put all of the information, all of the scanned documents, pay slips and everything like that into that Google Drive folder, and then shared it with the mortgage broker, so he was able to see absolutely everything he needed to and get us the mortgage. So much quicker, so much easier. The next one sounds really obvious, but it's the calendar on my phone. It runs my life. It's always going off, little reminders to maybe call somebody or do something, and really simple things throughout the day. But I think the real power of it is that as soon as I think of something, I can put it into my calendar, and then I don't need to think about that until the task comes up, which just frees up so much headspace, which means I feel less stressed, I feel more in control, and this all means I can carry on doing my day job well. I don't miss those little tasks that I set for myself maybe a week earlier, or sometimes there's something I set a year ago, like maybe starting the remortgage process, and I still have the headspace to think about longer term goals and make sure that we're going in the right direction. So I really can't recommend just putting everything on your calendar enough. Then I use Trello for project planning. It's a really visual app based around boards, lists and cards. So a board could be for a joint venture, for instance, and then each list could be a step in the process. And then the list contains cards. And each card can be a task, and it could be a recurring task or a one-off task. And what you can do is you can assign those tasks to individuals, and also you can duplicate those tasks if they're kind of recurring, with checklists and everything like that, so you can make sure there's consistency and you can start systemizing what you're doing, and you can see exactly what has been done or what hasn't been done, what's pending. For example, I have a Trello board for the podcast, and one of the lists is interviewees to book, and each interviewee has a card which has their name, has a link to their social media and a due date for when I'm going to contact them by. So as soon as I've contacted one of those people, I colour code them. Then when they confirm they're happy to be interviewed, I move their name to a different list so I can see exactly where I am. One of the great things about this is that you can have multiple boards with different members for each board, which means you can have different projects running, but you're still just going to Trello, which keeps everything nicely organised, keeps it simple, and it means you're not wasting time going from one program to another. Then I use WhatsApp for group chats to make sure communication is always open and I've got a record of what's been said. Sometimes it's difficult to remember exactly who agreed to do something. And if you've got a record of it, you can just go back and say, have you done that thing? You said you were going to do it. And equally, have I done it? If I've agreed to do something, I want to make sure that I'm following through with what I've said. So it is quite helpful with that. And it's free. So that is it, really. That is my little mobile office that I use. I'm a great believer in keeping costs as low as possible, which is why everything listed is free. So to recap, that's Google Drive, Google Docs, Google Sheets, my calendar on the phone, Trello and WhatsApp. That is enough for me for the time being, and I would really encourage you to have some of these if you haven't got them already. Now is a fantastic time to get yourself organised. So when we are out of lockdown and we're busy rushing around, you can access everything you need to from your mobile phone. I find it really, really helpful. It's also worth noting I always have a calculator in my bag, as well as a pen and a pad of paper for little notes and stuff. But what I've listed really helps me to stay organised and keep on top of things. Don't worry, I haven't forgotten to mention Rightmove, Zoopla, Google Maps, Street View, Spare Rooms, etc. But I'm going to talk about them in a separate podcast. Before you go, I've just got one last thing, which is this week's recommendation. I'm going to recommend something every week, whether it's a book, a podcast, a YouTube video, or something along those lines. But this week, I'm going to recommend that you check out Signable. It's a piece of software that allows you to sign things with an e-signature rather than a physical signature, which cuts down on the time you spend waiting for documents to come through the post and then sending them back. So it's fantastic as far as I'm concerned. So that's my recommendation for this week. I hope you've enjoyed the podcast and see you again next time. Thank you so much for listening to my podcast, and I really hope you enjoyed it. If you have, please leave me a 5-star review to help other people find it, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button.